Hello, all, and welcome to another episode of the Market Pulse presented by Smart Touch Interactive. I'm your host, Aaron Fichera, and today I have a special guest with us, Matt Baehr from the organization Homes for Hope. Matt, welcome.
Thanks, Aaron.
So, in today's episode, we're going to talk about Homes for Hope and your guys' noble cause around alleviating global poverty through the partnerships of the home building industry. So before kind of jumping into the mission and the tactics that you guys use, Matt, can you provide our audience a little bit of background? What got you into the industry?
Yeah, so I came to this role from the disaster relief and humanitarian aid space. So I was doing that for a number of years and learned about the work of Homes for Hope. And I was really compelled by the way they go about their work. It's pretty unique in the nonprofit space where they utilize microenterprise development tools, which means the money that is deployed in our programs is usually deployed in the form of loans, microloans, which get paid back and then sent back out again. So the money never really goes away. It continues to cycle through in perpetuity, which allows for just a lot of exponential growth and enables us to serve more and more people sustainably over time. And I also loved the posture of the organization as well, where we quote unquote root for our rivals. We realize that we're not the only people in this space, and the job is too big for us to do alone. So we love to come alongside other organizations and partner with them. So just that as a posture for an organization in the nonprofit space was really appealing to me as well. So lots of things drew me to the organization. But yeah, I started in this role in September of 2019, and it's been a great experience so far.
Well, and I know in our previous conversations, Homes for Hope has a rich history. I mean, it's been around for decades, and what really piqued, kind of the history buff in me was the inception and the beginning, the story behind it with the founder, and how did the fall of the USSR create the mission for Homes for Hope? And Matt, can you kind of tell our listeners the background of that?
Yeah, well, when the USSR fell in the 90s, it just created rampant poverty in that region. And so our founder is a builder in Pennsylvania still. And at the time, he and his church formed a partnership with a church in Ukraine, Zaporozhye, Ukraine, which is where the nuclear power plant is that's been in the news over the past couple of years here. And so he and his church were sending containers of aid to this church and to try and alleviate some of the poverty that was going on there. But the pastor of the church, way ahead of his time, actually said to Jeff, "Your helping is actually hurting us because the businesses here can't compete with free. Is there a way that you could help us help ourselves?" And so he's a businessman, and he kind of took a look around and see what resources were available in the region. He noticed there were fields of sunflowers there. So he came back and wrote up a business plan and purchased a sunflower processing machine so they can make sunflower oil, and delivered the machine and the business plan to the church so that they could start this business making sunflower oil. And he went back and visited a year later, and the machine was just still sitting in the same corner where he dropped it off, gathering dust. And he realized that he had moved from exporting goods to exporting his ideas, and that wasn't working either. And so around that time, he heard about the concept of microfinance. Muhammad Yunus, who kind of came up with the concept, had won the Nobel Peace Prize for his work doing research in that area. And so he decided to give that a try, and he did what he knew how to do. He built a home, and he partnered with his trades and suppliers to get donated and discounted services on the build, which increased the profit margin. And then he took the profit from the sale of the home and sent 12 loans of around $500 each to the church so that people could start businesses. And a couple of months later, the guy who went over with the loans to kind of manage the repayments gave him a call and said, "Jeff, I have good news and bad news. The good news is that people are paying their loans back. They're starting businesses. It's working. The bad news is that somebody got on local radio and told everybody about it. And so we're going to need a lot more capital." So that was in 1997. And that's when Hope International, which is our parent organization, got started. And Homes for Hope has been a part of the fabric of Hope International ever since then. So initially, up until about 2006, Jeff was just calling his builder friends around the country, asking them to do the same thing he did. And that's how we were generating most of our revenue as an organization. And then our COO at the time said we should probably diversify our income streams a little bit here. And yeah, so that decision probably saved the organization with the 08-09 downturn in the industry. But that's a little bit of the history of the organization.
Excellent. I mean, it really does embody that, you give a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach a man to fish, feed him for a lifetime, where it just really kind of embodies that when you kind of explained it to me. And it's very interesting to actually see it play out in real world events.
Yeah. And what I love to say too, is that we don't even actually have to teach anybody how to fish, because these entrepreneurs, they know what their communities want and need, that they're already fishermen. We just get to invest in their fisherman business, if that makes sense. So, yeah, we just have the opportunity to invest in them and help them grow what they already know how to do.
Well, shifting gears, before the funding gets to those in need, let's kind of take a step back and say, can you walk us through a little bit of the process of how is a builder identified or a project identified as a Homes for Hope project? How does that start over here, before it makes it to the microloans and the financial training aspect?
Yeah, well, one of the great things about our industry, about the building industry, is that you don't have to convince anybody to be generous or philanthropic, because they're already doing it. It's a part of the fabric of our industry. So all you have to do is let them know that Homes for Hope exists. And so they're already doing things locally. A lot of builders are involved in their communities, supporting needs and causes there. We all know about the great work of St. Jude Dream Home and Operation Finally Home, supporting the troops, Home Aid, supporting the homeless. So all of these great organizations are already doing great things. So the niche that Homes for Hope kind of falls into is for a builder who wants to be involved in alleviating global poverty, but doesn't know how to do so. So once they've learned about Homes for Hope and then our model, it really resonates with builders, because they are all entrepreneurs themselves. They've worked hard to build their businesses, take care of their families, provide jobs in their communities, and they know what it takes. And so when they see how we approach poverty alleviation, where we're coming alongside people and investing in their businesses and its families working hard to start businesses, expand businesses, serve their communities, provide jobs, they can see themselves in the people that we serve. So it doesn't take a lot of convincing once people know about us. So usually it's just getting us in front of them, which is one of the reasons why we're grateful for opportunities like this to be on your podcast. And usually what happens is a builder will have an upcoming community that they're opening, or they'll just identify an upcoming build and they'll say, this is our Homes for Hope project. And then we'll have a launch event where they invite their trades and suppliers, and we cast vision for the work of Homes for Hope, and people will sign on to contribute to the project. And then they just go through their normal process of building, marketing, and selling a home. Traditionally, there are some other ways that we partner with builders as well. And then they'll take the generated profit and donate that to Homes for Hope. Now, we have builders that have been partnering with us for a long time who like to donate the entire sales price of a home. We have other builders who are only able to donate a portion of the profit from the sale of their home because they need to keep their businesses going. There's all sorts of different kinds of builders out there. There's production builders that are building hundreds of homes per year. There's fully custom home builders that are building maybe 10 to 12. And so it looks different for every builder that we work with, but we're happy to be flexible and figure that out, whatever makes the most sense for a partner in their business to partner with us.
Well, I mean, it sounds like a robust network and a cross section of contributors. And then, from a community standpoint, I would imagine that for the builder or community, that's kind of a feather in their cap that they can point to of a Homes for Hope project there in the community. So not only the business, but also the residents can feel good about kind of a global connection, thinking locally and contributing globally.
Yeah, especially for, this one trade partner was talking about, there's a lot going on in the world that it feels like we can't do much about. but we install plumbing, electrical work, and we do it really well. And this is a way that we can do that and be involved in meeting needs around the world. So there's that connection. Another piece that's really appealing to builders, excuse me, is that it's not a charity home. They're not building a home to give away to somebody. They're not working with volunteers to build a home that they have to train or kind of go behind. They're building their product in their communities with their people, and selling it like they normally would, and but also using the profit from that to invest in global poverty alleviation. So I think we try to disrupt a builder's normal processes as little as possible when they partner with us.
Well, I know for myself too, I'm always, before making a charitable contribution, I want to kind of know the organization, understand where the money is going to. And, for some of these builders, is there an internal tracking or, a dollar amount that they can expect through the contribution that can actually be received directly to the aid of those individuals?
Yeah, could you rephrase that question? Are you saying, is there
just how do you track the dollars that are being contributed and how much of that goes directly to the aid of those in need?
That's a great question. Yeah, so we have a really robust network of microfinance institutions around the world, and we have a lot of systems and processes in place to track donations. We measure quality, we measure OSS, we monitor fraud. There's all sorts of things that we have experts in these roles to monitor these things. But to answer your question more broadly, on the Homes for Hope side, so Homes for Hope is a separate 501c3 from our parent organization, Hope International, but all funds that we raise go directly to Hope International's programs. So 100% of what comes into Homes for Hope gets designated for Homes for Hope's programs, for Hope International's programs around the world. And our founder has designated his donations to cover our administrative costs. And then whatever is above and beyond that, it also goes directly to Hope International's program. So everything that comes in to Homes for Hope outside of our founder's company goes directly to the field.
That's awesome.
And then on the Hope International side, we hover right around 85% of program.
Okay.
So 15% administrative, the rest of it goes directly to the field.
That's incredible. Mm-hmm. That's a really great ratio. Well, now that we kind of gone through the process of selecting that Homes for Hope project, you touched on it a little bit about microloans, microfinancing, and training. For years, especially the postmodern era, the fall of the Soviet Union, economists, world leaders have touted and recognized the game-changing abilities that microfinancing has on poverty alleviation. So, how do you, as an organization, determine who qualifies for these loans in the regions you serve?
Yeah, that's a great question. We're very fortunate that we have local indigenous loan officers who are from the communities that they're serving. They know way better than me. There's a couple instances where we've had clients who are loan recipients who built businesses and then have worked their way up and now are loan officers themselves and are making the determination on loans. So that's one aspect. We have finance professionals from these countries that are making those determinations. The other aspect of it is microfinance is on the material relief side of things. We know that poverty is much more complicated than just a lack of money or material resources, right? It's much more layered than that. And so when we seek to address poverty, we seek to address it holistically, poverty in all of its forms. So relationally, spiritually, socially, and materially. And so what we'll do is we'll form solidarity groups, and we do so in two main ways. We have savings groups, which are for people that are living in really remote places, abject to poverty. Those are run through local churches. and a group will come together and they'll decide themselves, okay, maybe we're going to save 25 cents a week or 50 cents a week. And then they'll take turns drawing on that pot to either pay for school fees, medical bills, or start businesses, whatever their needs are. And then they'll work together to pay it back. And then they cross guarantee each other's loans. So they'll say, if you can't pay this back, it's on the rest of us to do so. And that's true all the way through our programs. So our average loan repayment rate is 97% over the last 5 years. So 97% of the loans that we give out are paid back. And yeah, and so you have that's one way that it's identified who receives a loan is they'll say, I can vouch for this person. I know they have a good business idea, or I know them. I know they're good for it, and they're going to come in, and then we're going to own this all together. And then on the microfinance side, those are real brick and mortar finance institutions with loan officers, and people will apply for loans and they'll determine who receives loans. And it's not me from the West coming in, helicoptering in and saying, okay, I think you have a good business idea, because I don't know. I don't know what'll work well in a given community. There was this one person who received a loan a number of years ago who wanted a $20 loan so that she could buy 20 of those white plastic lawn chairs. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And her idea, I probably wouldn't have given that loan. That I don't know what kind of business you would build with 20 plastic lawn chairs, but she had a good idea, and her loan officer knew that she did, because he was from the area. And in that culture, when people would have weddings, they would last for days to weeks at a time. And she knew that people needed to sit down. So she started this wedding business, and paid her initial loan back, took out another loan, and through multiple loan cycles, fast forward to today, she now has 200 chairs, 200 place settings, a number of centerpieces, and 3 wedding dresses, a small, medium, and a large, that she rents out to people so that they can have these weddings. And this business is paid for her children to go through school and the university in that country. And so that's why I'm saying it's best that we work with local indigenous people who know what they're doing and that we can learn from.
Well, that's from a Western standpoint. You go into a bank and you say, hey, I want $20 to buy 20 chairs.
Yeah.
Business, you're going to say, get out of here. You're crazy. But
exactly
on the local understanding of culture and the ground game definitely challenges our opinions or perceptions of what it can actually be used for.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And so those people that receive loans from microfinance institutions also join solidarity groups, cross guarantee each other's loans. And then we have small to medium enterprise loans as well, and those are in the small thousands. And that's for businesses that are ready to scale, start hiring employees, etc. So yeah, that's kind of how it works. And then I think you had a question about the training programs, right?
Yeah, outside of just the financial aid, what kind of training programs or other trainings does Homes for Hope offer these individuals to help alleviate poverty?
Yeah, so in these meetings, we learned this from our partner in the Philippines, our partner organization in the Philippines. In all of these meetings, they'll go through what we call the 5 W's, which is welcome, worship, word, work, and wrap up. So they come together, they worship God together, they study God's word, which is where they receive biblically based business training. And then they do the work of paying the loans back or taking loans, etc. And then they celebrate and wrap up the meeting and go from there. So that's true across most of our groups around the world. It's applicable worldwide because number one, it's based on biblical principles, which have stood the test of time. The Bible has gone throughout the world. And yeah, most of the world outside of the US, this model works where most of the world lives more communally than we do here. It's less independent, pull yourself up by your own bootstraps kind of cultures. It's more familial, community-based, interdependent rather than independent, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's why it works.
No, I thought that was, when we talked earlier about the social accountability there is that, one of the questions I posed when we were first talking was around your default rate. And you were saying it's, as you told our listeners earlier, is just astronomically low in comparison to traditional institutions.
Mhm.
And it seemed like, in my mind, what really stuck to that was the social accountability, that you have these people that, you're close communities, you're, arm's distance of each other, you're really intimate with each other's families and businesses, but
Mhm.
also accountable that, hey, if you don't show up to these meetings, you don't pay back, you're just, you're taking advantage of this program.
Mhm.
That affects everyone in that group, which then adds that another layer of social accountability, which I thought was amazing.
Yeah, and if you attend one of those group meetings and somebody doesn't show up, they'll either wait for the person to show up or they'll go find the person and bring them. It's fascinating to watch. But what an opportunity it is
I
to
wonder
learn.
if we can start applying that in our own American
Yeah,
financial.
well, that's what I was about to say. Like, it's an opportunity that we have to learn from the people that we serve. We're so polarized and individualistic, and our country is feeling the effects of that
Yeah,
in many ways. What if we leaned more into building community and supporting each other, like these incredible entrepreneurs we have the privilege of serving?
cool. You know, I know we kind of talked a little bit about the Eastern Bloc and a bit of Southeast Asia, but for our audience, Matt, what other areas do you guys serve? And are there any case studies that stick out to you over the last year or so?
Sure, yeah. So we got started in Eastern Europe, and then we're also active in Southeast Asia, a number of countries across Africa, Central America, South America, and Haiti and the Dominican Republic.
Amazing.
And yeah, so a lot of the toughest places on earth. But when you say stories or milestones from these regions that stand out to me, um, one is Ezekiel and Julienne from Rwanda. Um, about 10 years ago, they were living in a mud hut. They had no water or electricity. They had two small children that they were raising, and they had a maize flour, corn flour business that they were trying to run to provide for their families, but they weren't able to make enough to get ahead. And so Ezekiel had learned about Orwego, which is our partner in Rwanda, our bank in Rwanda, from a friend, and went to one of the Solidarity Group meetings. And he joined the group, and was there he learned about through the trainings about diversifying his business and his offerings. And so they started to do multiple businesses. They started in addition to the corn flour shop, he took out a loan to start a banana shop, a juice shop. Then they opened up a grocery store, and then his wife, Julienne, joined shortly thereafter, because they had a rule that 70% of the group members had to be women. And so then together they started to start multiple businesses together. They started a hardware store as well. And then they started to purchase land and build, commercial property for others to rent out. And they got a plantation. They started a piggery. They started to employ people as well. And they were eventually able to build a home with water and electricity for their growing family. They now take care of 9 families, and they pay for a younger brother to go to college right now. Just an incredible story of growth. The current loan that they have applied for is to get a semi truck so that they can, transport wholesale goods to supply other stores. So just an incredible story of resilience over 10 years, that much growth. And I'm also reminded of Flora, who's from the Dominican Republic. She was trying to take care of her 2 daughters, and pay for them to be able to go to school by having a blanket set up on the side of the road and selling goods that way. And a similar stories, a friend told her about Esperanza, who's our partner in the Dominican Republic. And she had this dream of wanting to open up 2 stores side by side, a hardware store on one side and a variety store on the other. So she received a loan, was able to do so. And her, again, multiple loan repayments. Her 2 daughters help her out in the store. Her older daughter runs the hardware store, and she and her younger daughter run the variety store. her husband is in charge of purchasing. So he uses WhatsApp and other resources to be able to find the products that they are able to sell. Her older daughter is now attending college through the profits that they're making from the business. And then when the pandemic hit and they had to kind of shutter their businesses, she started to sell products through WhatsApp and was able to hire local young men and women to deliver the products door to door from the homes. And so she opened up this online store that she's running now as well. So again, just the drive to take care of families and the talent that we see in these entrepreneurs, it really is remarkable. And the only thing they're lacking is opportunity. And, so it's an incredible privilege to be a part of that.
That's amazing. I mean, it just tickles me, the connection we have as humans of that entrepreneurial spirit and wanting to maximize what we have in front of us.
Absolutely.
So I think it's absolutely amazing. And, I know if we look at the news today, a lot of it has to do with kind of the conflicts, and one in particular, the Ukrainian conflict with Russia. And I know that region being kind of the home base or the inception of Homes for Hope. So Matt, could you kind of talk us a little bit, with this recent influx of conflict in the region and neighboring regions, has this impacted your initiatives?
Yeah, absolutely it has. When the war first broke out, our initial response was we need to make sure that our staff is safe. We have 26 years of relationships and staff in the country. And so for those that wanted to move to a safer location, not all of them did. A lot of them wanted to stay in places like Kyiv and others. But for those that did, we wanted to make sure that we supported them to get them to a safer location, supported their families. It's kind of like when you're on an airplane and you hear if the cabin air pressure drops and the face masks drop down, put it on yourself first and then put it on others, right? So we wanted to make sure that our staff were taken care of. So that was our first step. And then, we're more on the development side of poverty alleviation. There's relief, and then there's recovery, and there's development. And all of it is valuable work. But Homes for Hope historically has leaned more on the development side. But in that moment, we had to shift to relief. And when you're dealing with poverty alleviation, you can't get stuck in relief, right? Because then you create dependency. Yeah. But we needed to respond to what our staff and the people that we were serving were going through at that time. So we through our network of relationships in the region, we were providing meals for people. A lot of the churches that we worked with were converted to dormitories for people that were fleeing the conflict. So meals, clothes, that kind of aid we were providing through partners. And then after that initial response, we kind of shifted to recovery, where we had to restructure or forgive a lot of the existing loans that we had with the people that we were serving, and kind of set them up and make sure that they were safe and able to get reestablished. And then once that was over, we have now shifted to our resiliency phase. So the war is still going on. Mm-hmm. There's still a lot of really, really sad and terrible things happening in the region. But the resilience of the people has been incredible to watch. I'll give you a number, then I'll tell you some stories. So, we had to restructure or forgive all of our existing loans when the war started out. But the wartime loans that we've given since the war has started are being paid back at 100% rate. So greater than our average, it's been incredible. The people are growing their businesses. They're taking care of the people that that they're called to take care of. It's even been incredible to see where there were marginalized communities within Ukraine of people groups that had been looked down on or discriminated against in the past. And they were opening their doors to the people that had discriminated against or persecuted them in the past, and caring for them and caring for their needs. It's just really restorative relationally, and has been incredible to watch. When Russia invaded, and Ukraine is known as the breadbasket of Europe, so there's a lot of agriculture clients that we have in the region. And when the war first broke out, we had our clients still plowing their fields, getting ready to plant, flying their Ukrainian flags as Russian tanks were going through their villages, just in defiance. We're going to plant the seed, we're going to grow it. And there was actually in the middle of the most intense season of all of this, there was a really impactful, I can't think of the right word, a poignant maybe moment in one of our meetings, where our director of the country said that some farmers in the northern part of the country had captured some Russian tanks. And either the Russian soldiers would abandon the tanks when they stopped working, and the farmers who are brilliant and can fix anything made them work, and they were like driving them through the field. Or there were some instances where farmers had just defeated some Russian tanks and took them over, and we're towing them through their fields with their tractors, and they said, so we have some farmers that have captured some Russian tanks, and we're trying to think through if we can use these as collateral for loans. And it just went to show the resilience of the people. But as an example, there was this restaurant owner and his wife named Artem and Alina, and they had I think 2 restaurants, but when the war happened, and Russia was messing with the power grid, and electricity was unreliable, they got a loan so they could purchase some generators so they could keep their businesses open. And they received it very quickly from our team there, and they prioritized hiring internally displaced people who were fleeing the war, because they were more in the eastern side of the country. So they're taking in these internally displaced people. We're hiring them, and we're even paying them daily so they could meet their needs. They're providing them with clothes. So that's just an example of the resilience of the people. It's been a true honor and a privilege in this season of life, in this moment of history, to be privy to stories from the front lines of the resilience of the people that we serve.
And for a lot of us, hoping that conflict kind of comes to an end, and maybe we can look to the past, especially at the beginning of Homes for Hope, when there's a period when there's no longer conflict, that's when our greatest growth happens, especially in the region, and we can rebuild.
Yeah, absolutely. We're very well positioned, having been there for 26 years. Yeah, we have relationships with people that are longstanding and deep, and so we've been there for 25 years. We're going to be there for the long haul, and serving people however we can.
That's absolutely admirable cause you guys have over there. More of looking ahead, what future goals or projects does Homes for Hope have in the pipeline coming up to 2024?
Yeah, well, you can hear about the incredible stories, about the people that we're serving around the world. So Homes for Hope has ambitious goals to scale and grow in our support of Hope International, not for our own glory in any way, but just so that we can continue to expand and serve even more people. So practically speaking, we'd love to have launched a Homes for Hope project in every state. We're at about 28 of them at this point. So If any of your listeners are from states where we haven't launched the Homes for Hope project, they can contact me about that. If you're not sure, contact us anyway, and we'll let you know. And then we set kind of an ambitious goal in 2020 that by the end of 2025, we wanted to have granted 15 million to Hope International. I can talk a little bit about Hope International's numbers here in a minute. Typically up until 2019, the way Homes for Hope worked within Hope International was it was somebody in my position as executive director, and there was an executive assistant and somebody on retainer, and we had kind of plateaued around being able to send about $1 million to Hope International in support of their programs every year. So when I came into this role, I recognized that was going to continue to be the case, that we would automatically plateau, that we were limiting ourselves that way, because I have skill gaps, I have travel capacity. If it was based entirely on me, we would only be able to go so far. And so I was able to bring it to my board that we wanted to put a plan to scale in action, and they were in favor of that. And so that's what we've done over the past couple of years. So the way that 15 million by the end of 2025 worked was we wanted to grant 1 in 21, 2 in 22, 3 in 23, 4 in 24, and 5 in 25. So as we sit here today, this is October of 23. In 21, we did 1.45 in to Hope International. In 22, we did 2.3, and we're on track to do more than 3 in 23. So far, by God's grace, we've hit those goals in terms of scaling. But that's only a small picture of what Hope International does. So over the course of our 26-year history, we've raised around $260 million, which is an incredible number. But because of the way it works with repayments and loans being sent back out, we've been able to disperse over $1.6 billion in loans. Wow. And just a microcosm of that, in 2022, we raised around 36 million. And we were able to disperse 109 million just in the microfinance program over the course of that year. So that just shows you about the efficacy of this model and how it works.
And growing of the need too. I mean, that's, you're talking about almost double year after year.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So again, we're trying to continually challenge ourselves to scale in ambitious ways, but also responsible ways.
That's wonderful. Mm-hmm. I know as we're wrapping up our time together, and as we're getting towards the end of the year and being in kind of the holiday season and giving, Matt, for our viewers and audience, if they were wanting to get involved or contribute, how can they get involved with the mission at Homes for Hope? Yeah.
I think I would just say grow with us. One of the strengths of being involved in an organization like Hope is that we're not in debt. We're going to be here next year. We're not. Sometimes I receive these asks too. You receive desperate pleas at year end, like, we need this much if we're going to continue our work next year, or like, we need you to save us. We're not in desperate need for anyone to save our organization through their donations, but we want to continue to grow in our ability to alleviate global poverty worldwide in these sustainable and exponentially impactful ways that I've described. So just come with us. I or my team would love to have a brief meeting with any of your listeners to discuss partnership opportunities that make sense for them or their business. They could also visit our website, homesforhope.org, and we have a donate button there where they could get involved that way. But we encourage you to come along with us and get, for business owners, get your teams involved, your trade partners, your suppliers, your real estate agents, your designers, everybody in the industry. There are ways for you to partner with Homes for Hope and be involved in this work. So have a conversation with us. We'd love to talk to you about it.
Wonderful. I mean, I know with a lot of our audience, we're kind of building locally, but we can come together and fight globally. So
that's awesome. Let me tell you about this project that's going on currently, which is super creative. So the Professional Women in Building of Richmond, Virginia,
yes,
are currently, so they heard about Homes for Hope at Roland Nairnsey's, who's a sales trainer's event last November. And they kind of put forth this idea of what if they built a luxury playhouse that they could raffle off in support of Homes for Hope. And what really resonated with them was the fact that 80% of the people that Hope serves around the world are women, because they're the ones that are fighting for their families, most often starting these businesses. And so they love the entrepreneurial spirit of the women that we serve, and they could really resonate with that. And most of the people that we serve, like I was talking about Flora before and others in the Dominican Republic, their businesses are built onto their homes, where they'll take a loan, build a storefront on their home, and open up a store. And so incorporated into this playhouse that they're building, and they're currently building it. So yesterday, the day before, and Friday, they're building this home. But they're incorporating a storefront onto that to kind of mirror the stories of the people that we serve around the world. And we're having a reveal event at a local mall on November 9th, where people will be able to buy raffle tickets. Because of the way our model works, it only costs us as an organization, Hope International, $25 to serve one family for a year. So people can enter into a raffle to win this playhouse for $25, and all of that goes to support our work. And 3 of the women went on our Homes for Hope trip and got to meet some of the entrepreneurs that we serve in person in the Dominican Republic. And so they just came back, brimming over the moon with stories to tell. Even it's so multi-layered. One of the businesses that's supporting our reveal event on November 9th, the caterer, she received a microfinance loan herself to get her business going through Kiva, and then supported a Hope International entrepreneur through Kiva herself. And she just happened to be in the mall where we're having this event, and so she was super excited to donate the catering for it. So all these multiple layers. I share this because we love to be creative. It can take all sorts of forms, and we're just really excited to think through ways to get as many people involved in Homes for Hope and supporting these incredible entrepreneurs as possible. So there you go.
Matt, as I said before, as we've talked, I've absolutely been blown away by your guys' organization, the network, and just like you were talking about, the layers and the layers, not only within the home building industry here in America, but just the impact it has globally. So, Matt, on behalf of Smart Touch Interactive, we appreciate you sharing your story and kind of spreading the word a little bit of Homes for Help. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron.
And for those that are listening, thank you again for tuning into another episode of Market Pulse presented by Smart Touch. And I look forward to sharing additional stories and expert views in future episodes. Have a great day.